we have a great, so to say, different representatives here on the panel. I believe we will learn a lot today about enterprise projects on the blockchain. We'll talk about various things, starting from just learning investigation projects to actually POCs and implementation in real business processes. So I would like to introduce our guests. I will start one after one. So first one is SIEPMANN, who is working for IBM as Digital Reinvention Advisor. Then we have ARTIONA BOGO, who is a software and blockchain developer at SAP. REGINE HASCHKA-HELMER, who is now CEO at SIDLab and also a member of IOTA Foundation. We have today from EY KIRSTEN VOIGT, who is a manager for wealth asset management advisory practices. And finally, we have HEIKO MUSA from BMW, who is leading blockchain projects and basically group IT infrastructure and tech management. So that's a kind of an opening, and now I would like to ask everyone to give a little bit more personal introduction about your projects, what you do in your companies, what your interests are, etc.
Thank you. I actually don't do blockchain. No, I'm kidding. It was mentioned I'm a digital reinvention advisor, and it's probably the most asked question to me. What does that mean? The last part is very easy. Advisor is a consultant. Just in IBM, you're not a consultant if you don't work as a business consultant. Then you're an advisor. That's the easy part. Digital reinvention means it's the IBM term for digital transformation, but we don't say that companies in the future can transform. It's not enough. You have to reinvent yourself, meaning new business models and so on. So this is what I'm doing. I go to customers and try to vision the future with them. How will their business models work in the future, and how to build it on technology. And guess what? Very often you come to AI or to blockchain in that. So I do many blockchain prototypes after the ideation phase, and how can you manage things. And this is why I'm here today. So it's not my major area of blockchain, but I know or many future cool use cases on it. And people like her must then implement such ideas.
Thanks, Darina, for the introduction. So, ARTIONA BOGO from SAP Blockchain, and software engineer by education, but right now business developer manager, helping customers, SAP customers, to rethink their business processes on blockchain and actually, really, as you Rav said, reinvent those communications cross-company based on the blockchain-based backend layer, so to say. I also help lead those design thinking workshops because it's where it all starts, identifying problems, and really the technology itself comes at a very later point in time. It actually has to make sense to be a valid blockchain use case, and blockchain is not the answer to everything, and this is also what we tell to our customers. Probably that's why they like us and want to do business with us, because we follow a rather down-to-earth approach, and of course we have concrete offerings on all the technology stack layers, so starting from hardware platform up to the application layer later on.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. My name is Regine Haschka-HELMER, and my background is that I started in the early 90s with digital innovation, and I say innovation because at that time it was really very new, and so I was consulting corporates and a lot of companies how they can adopt digital and how they could start building business on digital platforms. So that was a very exciting time, the new economy hype and all this. And it was amazing because there were so many new things coming up every day. And nowadays, the whole thing with the blockchain and distributed ledger, that reminds me very much to that time when digital started, because this is a very new approach in technology, and we don't know exactly how we should use it and which creates value for each company, what are the use cases, what are the products and services at the end. So this is a journey, and this is really exciting, and I'm really happy to be in the IOTA Foundation, because so I could really help corporates and organizations to adapt this new technology and to guide them learning about this and finding out how they can really use these new technologies and how they can create value to their customers. Because I think every technology has one purpose. We should create a value, we should solve a problem, and this is something I'm focusing also in IOTA, that I'm guiding corporates and organizations how they can adapt these technologies, how they can use it and create at the end a solution or a value which was not there before.
So many thanks for having me. So I'm working in the financial industry, and my focus is especially on wealth and asset management, and there I'm working as a consultant. So this means in view of blockchain, my view is also, or my interest is in how can you use blockchain technology and distributed ledger technology in the asset management industry. And so there, for example, in the financial industry, you have a lot of manual processes still today, where you would say it's 2018, you would think that it is already automated, but it's not. And there are so many processes where you need to, for settling something, maybe 5 days or something like that. And that's something where I think it makes sense to check if blockchain technology, distributed ledger technology can enhance these processes. So, like, one of the big problems is very often reconciliation. And if you have a distributed ledger, then you don't need to reconcile in addition. And so, for me, I'm coming from this perspective, and so interested to investigate if there are smart contract solutions for processes in order to automate these.
Well, I have my own mic, but I'm not on the pitch, so maybe I'm not here, but I am. HEIKO MUSA from BMW Infrastructure Group IT. Well, first of all, I was thinking, should I attend this panel or shouldn't I? I'm not very sure, because it sounds like that we have answers for blockchain, for enterprise usage. What I think we maybe get close to it, but and very close to it, but we still not have all the answers. And so it means for us it's a kind of future and innovation field where we try to find out the right business really for blockchain. We all know, or we have the feeling that blockchain will be an innovative topic. It will revolutionize the way how we maybe work together, the way how we find new assets or new topics for business, which is very interesting to us. But whenever we discuss internally the topic, then it's coming out, well, first of all, blockchain sounds very good as a solution. Then we go deeper inside and we notice, do we really need to use a blockchain, or is this just the concept? But the new thing, and this is why I'm working on this topic right now, is it's something where we say it could affect our business deeply. It could produce new opportunities for our business, and even for, if we say for our business, it means for our customers as well, with new services. And the way how we go to those topics is we do a kind of innovation scouting, and then we go deeper into the topics within our technology management. And well, I hope to find answers. One of my colleagues, when he had to have a speech for blockchain, he said, oh, well, I only attended because answers or questions are not allowed, because he was looking for answers as well. I mean, yeah, a step further. So I'm very fine to discuss this topic with you as well.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot for introduction. I think it's important to understand why these big companies are going into blockchain space, and when we were preparing for the panel, we basically asked ourselves, like, why? What is the mission and vision? And like, to summarize from what was already said, for some it's learning, for others it's introducing certain new services for existing customers, but maybe you can also share a bit more about that. We can also kind of do it more like spontaneously, and of course, like the group today is not so large, so if you have any questions, just give us a sign and we will take it in.
Okay, so I often get the question, SAP and blockchain, what do the things have together in common, right? Because SAP is the enterprise company, and not only in Germany, but worldwide. And it's like, yeah, the first impression is that it's the centralized company, not only the ERP, so by definition it's the centralized company. So we don't see this, enterprises and blockchain actually are a good match. And being in Berlin and being very active in the ecosystem and also running a meetup there, like I run the Hyperledger meetup for Berlin, you get a lot of questions from the audience who are clearly fans of the public chains. And I totally understand that, but the world is not black and white, and often it happens that those people actually do not understand the needs of the business and don't really grasp how significantly blockchain can improve processes, and it can truly be decentralized but not open to everyone. So I like the term permissioned ledger, so to say. So I definitely am very convinced it makes a lot of sense, and what SAP is doing actually, it is our responsibility when having such a large install base to actually help them rethink processes, or I like the term reinvent some cross-company business processes on blockchain. And we are certainly at the very right position to do that, so we have that right to win because of existing products, solutions, packages that they use from SAP, and if we are able to actually integrate those existing solutions with that auxiliary level, which is what we call a blockchain service, and which is actually spun out of the SAP Cloud Platform, then we are perfectly in that position to actually help them talk with one another and write any kind of lightweight application on top of that blockchain-based backend. So it is about transformation, and it is not about revolution for us. We start from where we are, like from the systems, the product that the customers use, and we enable them in an easy way to actually own a blockchain node. Once they have that node, which, by the way, it's pure infrastructure as a service, and on that perspective we remain agnostic to what is actually spent. It can be Hyperledger Fabric, it can be multi-chain. We investigate other distributed ledger technologies as the one that you might be very well aware what's out there or what's work in progress. And once that prerequisite is fulfilled on the platform level, then any kind of application can be written on top of that. So this is in more details what we do.
Well, sorry. For me it's interesting. I mean, there's a history. We started to do research on blockchain technologies nearly 2 years ago, and I mean, it's a long time for us in our current situation to speed up and finding new ideas, new technology, new services to our customers, especially with starting of autonomous driving in the near future and all those things. And well, at this time, I mean, from my point of view, blockchain technology is approved in general. I mean, Bitcoin or something like that, it was showing that it could work. I mean, there are some mechanisms, they are maybe not that good. That's why I find IOTA is a good opposite way for things like low energy IoT devices and all those things. But the interesting thing, when I heard this my first time, it was that blockchain in the beginning, it was never designed for enterprise companies. And this is something why the hype started with the term and all the philosophic discussions they started up, and and they produce a kind of feeling that it's enterprise ready already, it's enterprise ready. But at this time it was just a proof of the technology, and now we are getting closer to the kind of level where enterprise could step in and where enterprise could find the solution. And I mean, first paradigms we discussed, it was like release management. I mean, regarding there is a new law coming up, and then we need to upgrade the framework, the blockchain framework. But by default, it was a smart contracts within our blockchain framework and blockchain topics inside. But per default at the beginning, it was the idea that you cannot change it. I mean, you keep the whole history and then you can't change it. But going into the idea of release management, you have to. I mean, you have to by law, otherwise you have to stop, or you could stop your service. And these are really challenges from my point of view. What we noticed as a typical user for blockchain services like supply chain services and all those things, we noticed this is something what wasn't really prepared, and this is the challenge from my point of view what we have to discuss with our technology providers and to help us to develop a business. I mean, I want to hand over maybe to IBM.
I couldn't have said it better. We must all admit that blockchain is still an infant technology. Also, Bitcoin networks are running on it, or Ethereum. There are many applications even on it. Still, there's issues and there's unsolved things like governance. There is, we must agree on certain APIs, how we feed a blockchain, how we get data out of a blockchain, and so on. But still, it's one of the most promising technologies, because I mean, we saw many use cases today from Airbus in the morning, the pilot ticketing system. We saw the supply chain, food safety. They are all perfect for the idea of blockchain. And now, as it was said, we have to work together to make that happen, and enterprise ready and transaction better in transactions and so on. But this is absolutely possible. I mean, there's almost no IT idea, not even artificial intelligence or whatever, was built and was enterprise ready when it came up. So we are at that stadium now that we have identified great use cases for the blockchain. And now we have to work together to implement it in a way and learn from it, and talk to politics, to organizations, to standardize things. And even politics would be great to have that. E-government is another great use case for blockchain, actually. And there will be future use cases also coming up, and there will be in blockchain like smart homes. I don't know if you heard about Amazon in the United States. They have locks at the door, so that when Amazon is coming, delivering a package, they can actually open the door, slip in the package and close it if you're not at home. Things like that in the future will be in the blockchain, because then you can allow or disallow entrance to that, and you can be absolutely sure that that was the only thing happening. This is very hard to do in regular databases. There is things blockchain can do much better than a normal database, and it can do it safer. And if we follow the World Economic Forum, then by 2030 we will have share economy pretty far. The background on that is we are close to 8 billion people in the world, And the 1 billion people of Europe and the United States and North America, they're using all the resources of the world already by end of September. So we are just that 1 billion people do not leave enough resources in the world for the rest that cannot stay the same. So owning things will change in the future, and therefore the business models will. And there is no other better application than blockchain in the share economy. So whatever I have, a lawnmower, a drill, a car, whatever will be in the blockchain, and it can be rented out or used by someone else just by using a smart contract and an ecosystem around it. Because if someone else, if you want to take my car, I want to make sure you have an insurance for that. So you pay an insurance for 2 hours or for 1 day, and it must be happening. This is perfect use cases for the blockchain. So blockchain certainly is one of the major future technologies we'll have, and it will be enterprise ready then.
Wonderful introduction. I would like to know more about actual projects you're working on. Because I think it's, I mean, we all can definitely understand the potential of the technology, and that's why we are also here. But the most interesting thing is how far it is in enterprise application. And maybe some of the use cases, they are more urgent than other use cases. So this is the perspective would be interesting to know.
So then I just go on and start with this one. So from EY perspective, there are a lot of projects going on in all kind of industries. So for me personally, focusing more on wealth and asset management. So where I was working on personally was to set up a loan, so a prototype for a loan on a blockchain, because they are coming from the perspective of process design, and that especially in the alternatives investment area, you have a lot of manual processes. There you can think of setting up a loan on a blockchain because you have a small number of participants you need to involve. So you could work with a private blockchain, and you just put on all these participants, so the borrower and the lender, for example, on the same blockchain, and then they can exchange this loan via the blockchain, and you can set up a smart contract so that payments can get triggered by themselves. So in this direction, so you would have a chance to automate processes that are currently very cumbersome, take a lot of time, but this is only one example. So you can think of all kinds of examples, and so for like with this example, you have a prototype, and there also the difficulty is to really leverage this thing, because especially this is connected with the business itself, because if you look at project financings, then you have always a new prototype, so to say, because all these loans are individual and really individual connected to the underlying project you want to finance with this. And this is definitely another challenge. Okay, so yeah. At SAP Blockchain, we have developed more than 20 POCs in the last 2 years. And I understand that there is some kind of impatience from the audience when they hear the term POC, because there is a lot of expectations. I remember end of year last year, so there were articles like 10 years in and the world has not seen any use of a blockchain, which was pretty much echoed from the readers. I think that this kind of impatience or higher expectations come, of course, from the crypto world, cryptocurrencies, and all the hype that surrounds and price speculation and stuff like that. So with regards to the POCs we have done, we know very well where we need to go next, and of course we're working towards making them go live and ready to use, and we're actually pretty much have touched this milestone with public sector use case for the region of Bolzano. Actually, public sector is also one of those scenarios where it doesn't immediately kind of click whether it's a valid blockchain use case, because the government, it's basically the entity that needs to kind of regulate all related processes. And if you have one central party that kind of takes care of all processes, then why do you need blockchain? So you can do it perfectly with a central database, for example. That turns out that, for example, in the region of Bozen, we have like 21 separate offices, like municipalities, that want to operate in an autonomous way. Say, for example, when you as a citizen want to receive a loan from the government, but then you change your you change your city or village, go to another one, then the next one was not beforehand allowed to automatically get access to that citizen data, and right now they can do so, for example. This is just one example, then the others range from inter-country payments to bonded loans, which was mentioned from the colleague from EY, then lots of other use cases, such as bidding, in procurement, of course, supply chain, which is like probably the first one that comes to your mind due to the fact that it's a very fragmented market and very growing very quickly. Yeah, so I can go into details and explain what we're doing in all of those use cases, but I think that it's pretty well kind of a known fact what blockchain scenarios for the enterprise world are. Everyone can kind of give himself or herself an intro. It's pretty much no-brainer. I think it helps when you start small and then see how to either kind of aim at going live and seeing how it actually improves. Question or? Okay.
Not related to you, what you're talking about, just the question, yeah. No, you keep
interesting.
Keep talking.
Yeah, good that I saw you. Please tell me.
No. Finish your point.
Okay. Yeah, now I forgot. So, yeah, bidding in procurement or other use cases, probably healthcare is also very interesting. Yeah.
Speaking about blockchain, IOTA is not based on a blockchain, it's based on a tangle. So one question, who knows what is the difference between tangle and blockchain? Some of you know, maybe some of you don't know. So just a short explanation, because otherwise I cannot participate in the discussion here. So yeah, IOTA is designed especially for the Internet of Things. And it was not created for hosting a cryptocurrency. It was the vision to create a technology which enables the Internet of Things. And so IOTA is focusing on building an industry standard together with the corporates to enable all these visions about a connected world. And I think this is very different from that where is blockchain coming from, or Ethereum, which is the development of the blockchain, but IOTA is the next generation of blockchain. So we are a little bit we have advantage because we've been later, and we took all these disadvantages of the blockchain and created a technology which enables now a lot of more use cases. So we are working very closely together with corporates to find solutions for these new distributed ledger technologies. And I think so blockchain use cases are very limited at the end because they have natural limitations like scalability or transaction costs and all this. And we from IOTA, we focus on solving these problems to really create a technology which enables these new use cases for this industry usage. And so we get a lot of interest from the corporates and the industry to develop together use cases, and from our side we see, for instance, the automotive are very leading in the whole industry. They are, they have this strong vision about these connected cars and the cars communicating to charging stations and all is automated. And so we create this technology together with the corporates. So I think that this accelerates the development of this distributed ledger technology. And so I think we could bring together all these solutions faster into the market.
Okay, so my question is, as far as I understand blockchain, it's replacing a hierarchy with a protocol. And so, first correct me if I'm wrong on that. And then my question is, do you see a world where it is possible to replace the very enterprise model itself with a decentralized autonomous organization, for example? I'd be very interested to hear in if you had looked into that and what may be challenges and obstacles. Thank you.
Maybe I can answer that a bit and prove Darina wrong that I'm only talking about far future stuff. Because, okay, from the IBM use case today already was said, the food safety stuff and the supply chain. But what we're also working on in a city, digitization of cities, they have to compete with Amazon and so on. So they need new models how people can purchase things or find things in the city, because today it's pretty hard. They are not digitized together. If you want to see what you want to purchase in the city, you have to go to Google actually, which is very stupid, because then only Google has your data and the stores still don't know what you're looking for. So you need a centralized platform, but that's not enough. You need combined purchasing of goods. They're coming from different vendors. So one project we're having with S-Log, don't know if you've heard of them, they actually created that decentralized organization built on blockchain, and they have an app, a share economy app. And we are trying that out in a city in a pop-up store. So it's a big house and it has many goods in there, but they're all coming from different stores. So it's not one store, actually it's 500 stores in one house. But you would go crazy as a consumer if you have to go to the register and buy each of those things differently because they're from a different store. You just go in there, you want to pick all that stuff, and then you go to a register. Or if you want, you just scan the codes with your smartphone, and then you're paying. And the blockchain actually tracks all the things that in the store. It tracks the cost from the store, from electricity to the people that are working in there. And whenever something is purchased, that goes to that store to deliver the goods purchased into that house. So this is actually a share economy in one store. It's completely invisible for the people, for the consumers going in there. So this is a great concept, and it's a start from the share economy or from a decentralized organization, if you say so. And this is possible by blockchain, and it's already prototyping. So it's not very far future.
So I think the question was like, if there would be a startup sitting out there that would kind of disrupt this shared data model in the store, which is right now done from the enterprises, right?
No, it's more, instead of having a company that you register with the authorities, you have a company that's managed like Dash, the cryptocurrency, where you have a automated funding model that's operated through the blockchain, and you have proposals that the shareholders can vote on, and then the budget gets distributed accordingly. And it's like, it's not comparable with a company today because it's not, like, it only exists on the blockchain.
Okay, so a way to actually tokenize the entire enterprise from funding levels, basically. Sure, like I'm very open and encouraging whoever wants to do or develop this kind of models, but reality is that customers here to these large corporations like SAP, IBM, we have here, in the case of SAP for more than 40 years, because we have the knowledge and the expertise of the industry, and it is really important, it is not a factor to underestimate, and that's why they would rather go and use our expertise and rely on us to then later on fuel entirely new models, which will still be centralized, but not probably open to the entire public, because it just does not make sense for that particular use case. So this is what I wanted to, just wanted to be sure we're on the same level.
Okay.
Because I think it's a valid question and for the enterprise.
My personal opinion, I think the way innovation projects are happening now. It's in big companies, it's rather incremental innovation. You can fight by me on that. So incremental means building on top of existing, right? And therefore, the companies which existed before will not really be able to change completely to decentralized mode. However, what I see with the whole blockchain community becoming more active, more self-governed, there are a couple of projects at the very early stage I looked at that you can decentralize a part of organization. So for instance, a lot of startups raise through ICOs, and then we don't know what to do with these funds. They cannot pay the rent, but they could pay developers for developing the product, and they just have to manage the further steps, right? So in a way, it's some type of decentralization. However, it's a little bit limited one. Yeah.
I have a question. Two actually. Oh, you want to ask? I have two questions for you actually. So, okay, so you are a member of IOTA Foundation. I read the IOTA white paper and very fascinated about the technology behind that. You know, with like fast confirmation time and no transaction fees, it's really promising. But there has been a lot of controversy, you know, around this technology, and you see the discussion between IOTA and MIT Media Lab about the technological vulnerabilities. So what do you think about that? Do you think that IOTA technology really have the goodness that they are talking about? That's the first question. The second question.
Can I answer this?
Okay, sure.
Yeah, there is a lot of, we call that FUD, is going around in the community and in the forums, and there was a lot of discussion, but it was not the MIT itself, first of all. Yeah, it was a special certain department which was focused on the Bitcoin. And so there is a very long and intensive response created by IOTA to all these discussions, and I think we pointed it very clearly out that it was more kind of fun and not really substantial what they discussed there. And it was driven very much by personal interests, which is not good, and because it was not objective. So I think discussions could be really valuable, because when you discuss something or you request something, and so you rethink things, and this helps really developing technologies further, much faster further and forward. And I think so this is quite, in principle, very valuable. We discuss a lot, and it's really good to have that, because then you can really create, take it and improve it. But that was not really objective discussions what were going on. So, first question.
Thank you. So the second question is, IOTA has been developing very strong partnerships with the industries, but is there any real use case being developed right now?
Use case?
Yes.
Yes, there are a lot of use cases developed so far. Together with the industry, we are working on a lot of different use cases. And we have, based on the IOTA technology, which is the open source technology, we have defined different industry sectors where we are working on special industry solutions, like with the automotive companies, or energy companies in e-health and IoT. And so there are a lot of different use cases, like software over the air developments for automotive, or energy distribution via grids, microgrids, for instance, consumer-based, and so on. So there are various of proof of concepts we are working on and use cases so far. And we work very closely together with the industry, because we want really to support them in developing all these solutions.
We will take one question a bit later. Just want to bring the panel a little bit together. I think we got back to the topic of use cases, which is, I think, for everyone is, I mean, you have to start somewhere. That's why the topic of the use case is so important. And yeah, there is already certain opinion, what is urgent, what is not, certain examples. That's really good to hear. Regine also touched a little bit cooperation model between, because she's coming from a startup actually. We have only one person coming from a startup. The rest of the panel is coming from big companies. I think this is also one of the potential like innovation strategies here for bigger companies. So it would be interesting to know if you work with partners, with startups who develop something particularly for you or some certain use cases. And I'm always asking myself what the success factors you are looking for in these projects. I mean, they are all financed, like any innovation initiatives. There are certain KPIs, maybe not, or certain expectations. So maybe from your top management, if it's internal, or from your external customers. So that would be my next question, and then we will give the mic to audience. Okay?
Yeah. So would you like to? Yeah. Okay. Because I need to make sure that the concentration of answers is not going only from this side. Sorry. I mean, in this talk, we mentioned one part, and where I would say I would add some words to this, because I'm not 100% agree. If we say we have the knowledge of the technology, I wouldn't 100% agree. Why? I'll give you an example, and this goes directly to this topic use case. Of course, we did a lot of POCs to find out what is the technology. It's more than 20. We have a page with more than at the moment, the PowerPoint, what I do for my management to present this. It has around about 80 use cases, which are good for automotive industry. It's not on one paper, it's on one presentation, and so that's why those kind of presentations, they run maybe much more than 1 hour. However, but the interesting thing is, and this is my reason why we have to work together. I mean, we did a use case, just a simple thing, straight on your hand, said, okay, we have a car, and this car goes to a charging station, and we want to use blockchain technology to charge the car. In preparation of this use case, well, I asked our technology provider, well, could we pre-calculate the rate what we would have to pay for one charging transaction or something like this? And well, I was going to the technology or to the tech team, and they said, well, this is a question for our sales and whatever, marketing. And so I came to the first salesperson, and they said, okay, well, could you explain? Well, and I explained, and they said, okay, well, now we understood, but I'm not the right person to answer this question. And well, I went to the next salesperson, and I explained once again, and the answer was, oh, well, I cannot answer this question, but there's somebody who could answer the question. And this is something where we really need to find out from an enterprise level, because for us it's very important which kind of technology we are using regarding to the business use case, what we have to calculate. I mean, whenever you would provide, as technology provider, you would provide a good architecture where I say, oh, wow, I'm so excited about the architecture, but well, I cannot pay this because it's too expensive for each transaction. And we have to calculate, and this is our goal, we have to calculate in a million or whatever, in a big number of transactions what we have to deal with. And so, I mean, IOTA technology, for instance, for IoT devices, this is something what could help us. And a topic with blockchain, the next topic what you have to discuss with blockchain is edge computing, because it's so close to this topic. but it's the next new term, what you could really sell to your business, because if you need money to innovate some projects, then come with new terms, with new topics. They sound very good, they are not transparent enough, but they help to explore new technologies and new ideas. And coming back to the idea of having the knowledge, I mean, I say this because we don't have the knowledge for the business in the next, let's say, 15, 20 years, which is a long period of time. We don't know what happens with our competitors and all those things. It wasn't a very long time, let's go maybe 40 years or 50 years back, then we said, okay, 20 years in the future, okay, we could calculate this, but it's not possible anymore because there is so much of disruption ongoing of what is dangerous for us as well in the business, how we will do business in the future because of the technology. My idea or our idea is going close together with our technology partners, and I say this not as a kind of providers, I would say this is a kind of partnership. And this is the next point of, you mentioned open source, tremendous, you bring up the topic, open source. This is a thing, how we need to design those things in the future. So it means we need to open up those things because the new business models, what we in the past, what we did not properly think about is, I mean, in the past we were making cars, nice cars just by the way, but we were making cars and then we were selling the cars to our customers. But with the technology, with the new technology, we have new capabilities for business. Now we could say, okay, well, bringing the car to the customer, this is one topic, but think about that maybe a lot of customers, they don't want to own the cars anymore. And how could we create new business out of it? And so the technology will help us. And so going in the technology, for instance, I mean, now IBM is here and SAP is here. This is something how we will work together. We still, then I come back, yes, you have the knowledge about developing new services based on your historical knowledge and based on your soft and hardware capabilities, what you have right now. But we need to design this kind of world together, and we don't want to go into a very deep programming level because it's not our goal what we need to do. We want to go into a level where we say, let's design contents, let's design or let's standardize assets to bring this together, because this is something where we could develop a business, and this is a way how we could work together to design this. Okay.
Just a minor follow-up. So the 40 years of experience was not pure programming knowledge. Was exactly what you described right now. Was the knowledge of the industry, was like knowing what the business is about. And as I said, technology is the last part. We need to start figuring out the problems first and how to improve, and then decide on the technology stack at the last point in time. But
yeah, I agree totally. Yeah, because technology has really to provide value, as I mentioned in the beginning, and and I think also the future of the whole economy will change because the silos will not work anymore. It's only possible in partnerships, and so we really focus on partnerships very closely with the industry, because I think when we have the vision of a connected world and we act in silos, this is not working anymore. So this collaborational partnership, this is the solution to really adapt new technologies.
But I think Darina is waiting for her KPIs, right, Darina?
Hi. I just wanted to ask, from the perspective of the corporate adoption and POC development and whatnot. So it seemed to me that over the course of 2016 and 2017, in the corporate scene, there was quite a disconnect within large corporates about blockchain and how to look at it. So most of the blockchain POCs were being developed either by innovation groups or research groups in-house, or there were special blockchain labs launched and everything, but there was quite a distance between this and the C-level leadership of the companies and the strategic direction that the company was going and planning for sort of the next iteration of the economy. My sense is that that's coming closer now together, and that these research groups and innovation groups are getting a little bit more closer access to the C-level, but there's still a bit of a gap to bridge. So I just wanted to hear some commentary from your perspectives on how big is that gap still? Because one of the things that you hear from startups is that, we work with BMW, we work with SAP, but then we find out a year and a half later that we were actually talking to the wrong people. And they don't really have a say in the organization. They're just people like us who think technology is cool and wanted to build an experiment, but then it doesn't go anywhere because it wasn't at the right level, it wasn't sitting with the right group. So how are the corporates dealing with that?
Yeah, sure, so maybe I can start. Right? Okay. So, valid point, and it's like unavoidable then in such large corporations you end up maybe not talking directly to the right person or to someone who is really a member of the driving team or the driving efforts behind blockchain. From the SAP perspective, we call ourselves a blockchain incubation, and we're very happy to directly be reporting to Bill, like the CEO, very recently. So this was a move that happened in the past months. So we moved to the board office, which is a clear indication that SAP cares about blockchain, and there is a guidance for everyone in the company to actually think that blockchain is part of our core and strategy for the upcoming years. So it's actually not any losing time perspective from the people that actually have to make their numbers, because that's how corporates work. So you actually need to think in quarters, and this is exactly what kind of hinders blockchain adoption. But we're getting closer, and your observation, I'd say it's correct from my perspective.
Oh, good. Well, because it's an interesting point, and we have a startup garage, and we have a lot of presentations from startups. And we take this as carefully as possible. But you're absolutely right. Looking to, I would say now for BMW, it's more into the history. It wasn't very clear who is the right contact person for those kind of use cases. What we did, because, it's even for us, I mean, we are a bigger organization, and we have, around about 100,000 and whatever employees, so it's not that easy. We have tech offices around the world where we try to check the technology. But what we did is we internally, we were sitting together in a circle with responsible people from all internal departments to bring this thing to one group together. So whenever one responsible person of this department would be contacted, for instance, it could be somebody, let's say, from autonomous driving, somebody from IT or whatever, then we bring the requests together to one point so that we get the overview for this. It's absolute right, it's not easy because, looking into the view of a startup, it's sometimes you are very focused to prepare use cases or to prepare mock-ups or something, and then of course you need to, waiting to get an answer 1 year or something, it's a bit tricky. Some they are able to deal with those things, but some are not. And so you need to get fast answer, you need to find out the right person. And for blockchain, we have a circle, and within this circle, there's strategy a part of it. There are people from our bank, BMW bank environment. There are people from the plants, from IT. All of those people are together. We discuss this roundabout, in a monthly rhythm. So whenever you would have a question like this, then it comes together. Because again, we don't know what the future will bring, and we need to discuss this as well.
Maybe one more point about this. So I've seen also very similar things. So at some of our clients, where I can see that they're still reluctant to start blockchain projects. So the interest is there, but many companies are just waiting and don't want to be the first one. So they're just waiting, and if there's someone else who's doing it, they would like to jump onto the train. And so I think this is at the moment one of the blocking factors to get it running and to get it moving, because the interest is there, but to get it really started. And so from my understanding, it's the idea of blockchain to cooperate, to collaborate, because it is a distributed ledger, so you need the other ones. And if you just work by yourself, then you don't need a blockchain. So, but it's exactly what you described.
That's a very good point to mention. Absolutely. Partnerships are key, and I think, I don't know, to touch the topic of open source. I think this is also to define the industry standards and to build certain infrastructures which will be shared between all the parties. That's an extremely important topic. I would still like to come back to my KPI question. Why? I can explain you why I insist on it. Because in my point of view, in understanding the potential of blockchain, yeah, I mean, we all, as I said, know it. But in order to start building something, we need to address real world problems which exist now. And this is always the challenge, and that's why probably HEIKO has 80 use cases in his presentation, and it doesn't take 1 hour to present them. So maybe you can share your experience, if you can, how you assess certain use cases, like how you identify goals which you want to start with. Maybe these are partners who basically open up and say, this is what I want to do now, this is how I think it will work, show me, help me, or you take any other way.
KPIs are always difficult, especially if you talk about innovation, about the future, because how can you calculate a new idea against old data? It's just like making up a business case for a bank. Say, can I have that loan if I have a 50% return, or should I have 60? Does it sound better to you? Before it was said that IT must solve business problems. And so as SAP does, we use design thinking as a method to collect the ideas, to build prototypes before we even code. It just can be a drawn or even a PowerPoint at the beginning. Does not matter what kind of prototype you have. When you go to the people, if it would work like that, or if it would look like that, or function like that, would you use it? Would it solve you a problem? And only if you're in that stage, then you start actually building a coded prototype. And after that, you know what technology, what skills you need, and then you are able to calculate what the costs are, only if you know what the costs are, like the transaction cost and so on. After that, you can say, does it really, okay, it does solve a problem, but is it too expensive to solve the problem or not? So this is not exactly a KPI, but it's a measurement. Do I have a real problem? Do I solve it? And do I have the money to solve it? Or can I make a business case in the future out of it? And the same thing is when I define my use cases, what's that? If you don't distribute the data, you don't need a blockchain. I partly disagree with that, because you also have to think, will my business model work that way in the future? There was like insurance claim handling this morning. If I come back to claim handling, something like that, I would say I go easier than ship cargo. I just say Hausrat, so in your household insurance. and there's theft in there. So if somebody goes in your garage, steals your bike, then you need some claim handling on that. So what is the condition under what the insurance will pay you that amount? They say if you go to the police and you actually make, you present that and you get a paper from the police, then we pay you, because then we know you really think or you're very brave in cheating that your bike actually was stolen, because there is no other way that you can prove that it was stolen. You go to the police, you get a paper, and at the beginning, where you don't need the blockchain at the beginning, you get that paper, and then you upload it, the insurance will read it, and then it will pay you. In the future, maybe the police is part of the blockchain, they will actually upload the paper, or they will not even a paper, they just sign that you actually had a theft in your household, and then it will be paid. So if you think about doing something new for your consumers, you will automate the claim, you will make them faster, you will make them more modular, then you also should think about how will that work in the future, and then you can start this blockchain if the future would enable that. Otherwise you would have a database now and then come back and have to rebuild everything on the blockchain. So don't only think about today, think about what could that do in the future. But I agree, if it stays in your business, then you don't need a blockchain.
Okay, so KPIs again, still, or we moved on? Okay, going back to the KPIs. You shouldn't do KPIs related thinking if you want to do blockchain projects, because it will give you more problems than actually think that, okay, you have some motivation behind with some numbers, and then in the end you will maybe, I don't know, be disappointed, or it won't be quick enough. So the way we actually go with this is that we are totally empowered to have these POCs, because that's why we exist as a division within SAP, within the Innovation Center actually. And the way how to kind of scout those valid use cases and decide for this and not that one, for example, is of course that it first has to make sense, that all blockchain key value drivers need to be in place. Like, for example, we think that should there not be any multiple parties in the scenario, then you don't need blockchain, because a centralized solution would be more efficient, for example. You need to have these multiple parties as a key value driver for valid blockchain use cases, and I'm talking on the process level, I'm not talking on data sharing level. Then second is that those use cases should not be only for one customer, right? So they need to be generalizable, there needs to be a business case behind those that can be extended or used by at the benefit of several customers. So these are maybe the two kind of first, that's the rationale behind decision making, and probably some more kind of factors that we use to actually decide on one particular use case or not.
Yeah, when we start creating POCs, we do create and define assumptions and define what we want to learn and what we want to really take from these learnings. And so this is very important that you really define what you want to learn at the beginning. And I think it's not necessary to define KPIs in the beginning of such a POC, but of course you have really to be aware of how and why are you running this POC, and what you want to take away and learn out of it. And I think this is more important than to define KPIs in the beginning and the learnings. And so it's necessary to do that, because otherwise you just miss the chance to learn.
So, yes, I would completely agree with everything that has been said. So, defining KPIs is difficult, and maybe what you can do at the moment is, before you start a blockchain project, to check if it really makes sense to use a blockchain, what you already said, or if there are other technologies that might be better to solve this special problem. But I also think, especially right now, where a lot of companies are just investigating the technology and trying to find find out more about it and try to learn and to see for what it can be implemented later on. It's also necessary to just start some projects, even if the KPIs would not be so beneficial. So, for example, one example I've seen is that a client. So this client had invented its own digital currency in order to you can use it, and in the cafeteria you can make coffee with it. That's very nice. It works, but actually it takes more time. It is more complicated than just taking the general card you have and paying with in the normal way. But still, you learn how the technology works.
I want to add something on that. I mean, now we are on a blockchain conference. That's why we're talking about blockchain a lot. I'm sure at BMW or pretty much any other companies, people are not getting in the office in the morning and say, let's find a use case for blockchain today. Usually it goes the other way around. I mean, you do the design thinking for it, or any other method, does not matter. And then you say, okay, we have to solve their business problems, and then you look for technology. Maybe then in that discussion, you say, is blockchain the right or not the right technology? But you probably those, what we say, KPI or this, how does blockchain make sense? By then already would be clear, is blockchain the right technology or not? But usually we don't talk about what can we do today with the blockchain, something like that would be cool, but does not happen usually.
So just to reply directly, so this example with the digital coins was exactly that. The company was checking what can we do, we want to try out blockchain, and they came up with we invent our own digital coins.
I have the same feeling, just by the way. Sometimes people from our business, they are coming to the IT and they say, well, there's a new term, there's a new topic called blockchain. What could we do with this? And the interesting thing is, if you have the right person from the business, then they come with a budget behind. So what we, we do, just by the way. So what really helps us, I mean, a lot of use cases, if you go deeper inside, then you notice they maybe could solved with other technologies like database or whatever. And maybe we need to have a hard cryptography or something underneath and so on. But what we are doing is we start with ideation phases in the beginning, because I mean we don't know exactly is this the right technology? Is this technology the right, let's say, a state of readiness? And so ideation, this helps very good to find a proper solution. And I mean this is something what we are doing with your colleagues as well. Because this is a kind of partnership, how I think about the partnership, that we say, this is the idea, is this right or is this not? And for those things, it's even not that easy for car manufacturers, OEMs. It's not that easy to say, okay, well, then I talk to my competitors about this, how could we design a blockchain together, because then we have this other problem by the government, because we maybe are not allowed to work together to design this. And here again, our providers, they could help us, because they have they are allowed to talk to other OEMs and providers. And so with this kind of knowledge, this helps us really to identify new working use cases for blockchain technologies. But we are, in general, we are very open, because we say, again, maybe you could do this other, but we need to check how could blockchain technology help us. And so we go into this kind of use cases, even if we know, well, it's maybe another technology brings us much faster to a solution. And this is a kind of innovation process.
Okay, that's exactly what I wanted to finish with. I think it's very yeah, this blockchain topic is fully embedded into the internal innovation processes, and of course, well, hopefully in your companies it's highly supported, long-term available budget, and you can explore and identify use cases and try them out. That will be a good, point to finish with. We still have time for one more question, if there is one. Otherwise, we will still have time for questions personally. Is there any?
So, Ina Voigt, you mentioned that at EY you have been developing use cases in alternative investment field. Can you talk more, a little bit more about that? What kind of use cases have been developing so far for them?
I must say I've not completely understood the question.
Right, so you mentioned earlier that at EY you already developed use cases for alternative investment. So the company in alternative investment field, and I'm interested to know more about what kind of particular use cases that you have been developing so far. Thank you.
Okay, now I understood the question. So actually, I must say I just joined EY recently, and so this example was with my previous company where I was working on a loan project or prototype, and so what we tried to was to set up a private placement loan on a blockchain. So we tried it on Ethereum, and the idea was to implement smart contracts, so to represent the loan contract as a smart contract, or at least part of it, in order to automate processes. So generally, if you look at alternative financings, so like project financing, so the example is a company is building a street, and for this this company, so you have a project company only set up to build the street, and then this company needs a loan to be funded, and in project financing, normally later on you have, for example, fees on the street to be used, and then due to these fees, the loan is repaid. And so all these processes around this are currently very manual, and normally you would just take a lot of time to settle things, because it's really, so you need to check on the process of the work that is done, and yeah, so it just, you have certain parties involved, so not too many, but about a handful, and you need to align all these parties. And this is just very, yeah, that's the manual process right now. And there's the idea, if all these parties would be on a blockchain, then they would directly have the same ledger, the distributed ledger, and the reconciliation would be gone, so to say. So we just tried it theoretically, so trying to build a prototype. So it was not a live deal, so there were no real companies involved. But I also followed what is going on in this area in the industry, and there, to my understanding, there are some use cases, and there are especially some syndicated loans that are built on a blockchain, and but in all these, like the German Schuldscheindarlehen, so there are some examples where this has been represented on a blockchain, but also the examples that are existing, then you have mirrored the legal contract. So you have the legal contract still in place, where all the parties are signing in the general way, and right now you would just copy this onto a blockchain. And so, I mean, there also comes in the complexity about the regulation and the legal settings. So right now you could not just move everything onto the blockchain and omit the legal contract completely, so right now it's not possible. But still, it would have value if you could just automate the processes. So even if you do not change completely to a blockchain solution, but even if you could come up with a combined solution, you could generate some effects.
Mm. Thank you, Ina. I guess if there are more questions, you can do it later. Thank you very much for being a part of the panel today. Let's